Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Phil Dixon, the Chairman of the Board of Architectural Review, and we welcome you to our meeting this evening. It's now 6 o'clock on the 5th of November 2024, the time scheduled for our meeting to begin. Depending on the size or complexity of a project, each applicant has the opportunity to present a conceptual or a master plan for our review prior to committing funds for a full set of design plans and specs. Approval of a concept means that we might agree with the concept while disagreeing with some of the details. It also means that each phase of the project must be submitted at a later date once plans are more fully developed to obtain the board's final approval for that individual portion of the project. Hopefully, any disagreements will have been worked out before the applicant comes back before the board. For those of you who may be new to our meeting, our charge is to look at each project purely on the aesthetics, design, architecture, height, mass, and scale, and in harmony with the historic district in the town of Somerville. We look at the overall street scene. Although we are not required to solicit comments from anyone other than the applicant and the board members, except for demolition, we usually choose to begin our project review with a public hearing to allow others to express comments that might help influence our decision-making before the applicant has presented the project and the board members have resolved any questions they might have. You were asked to sign up when you first arrived to indicate on which project you wish to comment. When called on, please limit your comments to not more than 3 minutes. As always, we will review each submittal in the order that it was submitted. However, as a first order of business, we must approve the minutes of our last meeting, which we were sent to board members for review prior to this meeting. Are there any changes to be made, or do I have a motion that they be accepted?
I'll make a motion that we accept them.
I'll second.
All in favor, please answer for me. David?
Well, I was not there.
Beth?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Nancy Jean?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And mine is yes. We now call on those who signed up when they arrived to comment on a project be presented.
Mr. Peter Gorman has signed up to speak regarding 309 South Magnolia.
Here. I'd like to comment on the request for conceptual review submitted by South Magnolia. Number 4 on your submitted a letter record opposing this request to demolish the existing kitchen house and replacing it with an entirely new ADU. The applicant has cited the allowable reason for demolition is financial hardship. There's been a resurgence in new residents purchasing and renovating our historic housing stock on the east side of the historic district. This is welcome, but these newcomers must understand that they're obligated to preserve and protect the historic properties that they buy. Demolition must be the last option. Instead, it seems to be the frequent excuse to demolish, to build modern upgrades, and in some cases, just to flip the property. PAR guidelines incorporate sanctions for demolition by neglect, but require no proof from the applicant that claims of financial hardship are real. This is a loophole that theoretically could be used by every historic home owner in the historic district to demolish everything that we work so hard to protect. As the next door neighbor, I look at the kitchen and carriage house at 309 South Magnolia every day. It is obviously a freeman's cottage and carriage house contemporary with the 1880 main house. It has a magnificent brick chimney that would be destroyed. It is one of the last original kitchen houses if not the last, on our side of the historic district. The applicants have made major and continuing improvements to the roof and main house since they purchased it 4 years ago. This makes it hard to understand this hardship case for demolition of the kitchen house while replacing it with new construction. Furthermore, the expense of demolition and new construction of an ADU would seem to greatly exceed the expense of renovation. Burden of proof for financial hardship is on them, not on you. I ask that you require more proof of financial hardship or deny this conceptual review. Thank you.
First project. The first project on our order of business tonight is 311 West Carolina Avenue.
The applicant is requesting to reclad the residence with board and batten, also requesting to enclose the garage at the residence and create a larger covered front porch. The Historic District guidelines do expressly state that board and batten siding should not be installed unless the building has historically had board and batten. Porch design and paint colors are not typical of houses within the Historic District. Although the plan does conflict with Historic District guidelines, the property is rated as non-contributory and does not have architectural styling typical of the Historic District. The property's lot coverage currently exceeds the maximum allowable of 30%. Applicant will need to work with staff to ensure that the property is meeting zoning requirements prior to permitting.
My name is Pat Corpus. I'm with Arnold Studio, the architect working with the homeowner on the project. I appreciate all the feedback that was in there. That was a nice brief synopsis. We are looking to reclad the house. First level is currently brick. Second level currently rotting P111 siding. So while board and batten siding is not typically allowed in the historic district, the vertical siding does have a precedent on this building. I think we all can agree that T111 is probably not the proper siding to be built back onto this house with in any form. So to keep that verticality, board and batten seems to make the most sense in my opinion. Along with that, the house does not really fit in with the rest of the streetscape. It's built in the 70s, it's not historic. It's built in 1974, so it's barely 50 years old. There's no other building in the streetscape that is mostly brick. One that matches closely is the church across the street. So it's almost, in my opinion, again, trying to create a little bit more of that separation, but the church be the prominent historic building of Carolina Street right there. Let's lessen the house a little bit, put in more traditional low country housing, low country siding with it. There's also a little bit of evidence of water intrusion around all the windows. So removing that brick fix all of that inside the wall, again, makes sense. So replacing brick in the T111 with the board and batten siding seems to make the most sense in my opinion. And closing the garage again, we wanted to add some security to that garage. We wanted to reside it, wanted to look like the rest of the house. We included the board and batten as well. The front porch we're trying to extend. It's also one of the only houses in the area that does not really have a front porch. It's got a little front portico currently. We'd like to expand that, make more use of that, and we're continuing that 70s design. Trying to make it historic, low country architecture, trying to meet the intent of what was there in the 70s. And one other thing that we're trying to do is we're just trying to increase the roof slope a little bit. It's like a 2 and 12 roof slope on the second story. Really not very good in our climate, so we're trying to just increase that. I think we can have 4 and 12 called out, and just allow for a little bit better water drain. I think that's all. 6.
The color that you showed. The color that you showed on this sketch, that's the colors that you're looking to do?
That was the color scheme that was
Can you just walk us through what you're going to do? Well, just, what is, like,
It's a dark color scheme, I understand.
I understand that.
Trying to accentuate the wood products themselves.
Right.
bring out the colors of the wood.
So is that just the front door and the columns?
There's the beam across the front porch as well. There's a little bit of trim that would be painted a similar color to try to match and tie it together a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's a dark.
There. Can that picture be enlarged any? And I enlarged it, pixelated it. There.
Mm-hmm. It's better.
Last.
Right.
House not the facade. Somewhat offsets.
I know this house because we were friends with the original owners. And it was a very awkward house, like awkward to drive into the driveway, awkward to use the floor plan effectively. And I mean, it sits in a funny way on the site. So I respect where you're coming from, saying like, you're not trying to make it look like the rest of Somerville, because it isn't. And I also think like in just sort of like a really comfortable way, like what you're doing with the landscaping and what you're doing with the aesthetic pieces, it matches that house. And in fact, I think makes sense of the house in a way that it currently doesn't have any sense. And I personally am okay with what you're trying to do.
Well, I really like what you're trying to do. Um, I've always found that an awkward house to look at, even when it was in the best of condition, and this almost turns that into a Frank Lloyd Wright appearing property. And it also makes any of the awkwardness of that house recessed into the landscaping and the trees, and it doesn't stand out anywhere near so much as it has for all the years I've been here.
I'm surprised at how good it looks with those colors. When I just read the information, it just sounded wretched. Just, just tired, old, whatever. It's a really nice combination. I'm surprised, and I know that we don't use board and batten usually in the historic district, but that's specifically for historic houses. And to me, it works for this, so I've got no problem with it. I'm surprisingly happy with it.
Well, it already had verticality in the
Mm.
T111
Mhm.
siding, so not making a 90-degree change in the direction, and I think it goes well with the property.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like what you've done, and I think it just makes the house a little more cohesive, being the same.
A couple questions. The windows and the elevations don't match the rendering. Which are the ones you plan to use?
I was planning to initially reuse.
Okay.
First. Exploring replacing them, I think they would maintain a picture casement style. They just might go a little darker. My intent is.
And I don't know that changes anybody's opinion, but it doesn't look like this rendering. So
Doesn't look what.
it does not look like this rendering. So the windows are more like, are the, per the elevation and not per this rendering. So, and there's a big change. There's a big discrepancy between those two. Right.
Almost look more sort of.
Right. And those look more storefront, and like in these, you show that the shutters are staying. This one does not show shutters staying. So I just want to know consistency. I'm not necessarily opposed to one or the other. I just want to know what you're planning to do.
Again, trying to stay within the realm of the historic district, we were trying to keep the windows. If the board likes it better one way or the other, move the shutters. Original intent was to smooth principle with the historic district, but if it sounds more like you push that severance situation, well,
That's something I am on a homeowner. I would love to ditch the shutters, and I was being very conservative at house helping to try to stay within your guidelines, but if you are on board with dumping the shutters and keeping this look, I would love that.
I think this look in the color rendering, beats the hell out of saving the windows that you have. That's my 2 cents.
I would concur. I think that what you're trying to do is like reinvent a way to make this house like disappear into the background a bit, but still have its own character and have it be an appropriate home. And the shutters are like straddling no man's land.
It also appears that in the rendering, the windows are larger than the current openings. Is that the intent? Okay.
So you're going
And-
to use the original openings.
Yeah, and just like, for instance, if you look at this garage elevation, these windows are definitely taller
Mhm.
than these windows that you see in these elevations up here. Is it the way it's shaped? Okay. I mean, you drew it, you would know. I'm kind of asking the questions. Where are they drawn larger? They certainly appear larger in
Yeah,
the rendering. Mm-hmm. What looks different, it looks like the sill is lower.
No, I think that's just an illusion. So the rendering itself has landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white image, you can actually see a little bit of that slab
Mm-hmm.
below it.
Yeah, scroll for me just back to the elevations and the other direction. And keep on going down a little more. I want to see that front elevation. Yeah, that one. Well, that's the back. Keep on going down. A7. Other way. There we go. Right there. Okay. Okay. So it sounds like what y'all would rather do is per the rendering and not per these elevations. Then is what I'm hearing. That's y'all's preference. Okay. All right. And then the only other comment that I have is on the standing seam metal roof. Typically, we don't want any striations. So the one you looked like you submitted had striations in the flat panels. So we want to avoid those. And the height of that rib, we also kind of put we want a small rib, so no 3-inch standing seam. Yeah, I think, is it 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch?
1 inch.
1 inch, 1 inch on that vertical rib. So it's kind of narrow there. So, yeah. Okay. So just if you'll look at what you submitted shows differently than that. So that would be my only caveat.
So the grid pattern will match
The
what's in
rendering,
the rendering, and then no shutters.
correct. And the roof would meet the requirements of the BAR standard guidelines.
And why don't you make a motion based? on-
Sure. Okay. I'll make a motion then that we approve as submitted with the clarification that the windows will be per the provided elevation or rendering and not the elevations. There will be no, color rendering. Thank you, because there are several different ones there. The color rendering. There'll be no shutters in the new renovation, and the roof will match the BAR standard guidelines for no striations and 1-inch height on the rib, standing rib.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please respond for me. David,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and mine is yes.
Good luck, guys.
Yep. Like to see that.
Our next project is 214 Sumter Avenue.
Applicant is requesting approval for the installation of a prefabricated greenhouse. The plan meets all zoning requirements, though arborist review will be required for the placement next to the pine in the backyard. It does not appear that the structure will be visible from the right-of-way. Prefabricated structures are not typically permitted, but may be approved by the BAR on a case-by-case basis, dependent upon quality of materials, design, and visibility from the right-of-way.
So, I'll start here. The greenhouse, we're looking to put it to the back left of the property. It'll be shielded by bushes that are up front by the fence of the driveway. The greenhouse will be 8 feet by 9.5 feet. And then 8 feet tall. As you can see from the rendering there, it's the bottom's gonna be made out of cedar, approximately 4 feet high, and then the remainder is all double wall plexiglass. The intent is to paint that cedar the same color as our shed, which is what the shed was when we bought the house, a historic, I guess, blue pipe gray. And again, so it'll be flanking, matching the whole property. It'll be sitting on sort of like a movable decking material that allow drainage and us to move it around if needed. But permanent, if you approve it in that spot.
Well, as the next door neighbor,
I didn't want to bring that up.
I have no problem at all with it.
That's good to hear.
Hmm?
That's good to hear. Frequently, next door neighbors complain.
Yeah.
I would agree with David since it's not visible from the front of the house, I would approve it as well.
Hmm?
I approve it as well because it's not really visible from where it's
Okay.
located.
Right.
It's behind the Greens garage. So it won't be visible by them. It's
Right.
behind bushes from this property. So besides not being visible, I think it will be a nice addition for them.
And it will stay in this location.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So did y'all have to put it together or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
you
we're
did it
having
your-
a building party if you guys want to.
Amazing what you can get at Costco, isn't it? All right.
Right. Cool.
That's the plans.
I've got no objection. I make the motion to accept it as presented.
Second,
Please answer for me. David,
yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yeah.
Tim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and I go along too, yes. Thank you.
Very much.
Good luck, guys.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Your next project.
Our next one is 611 South Main Street.
I am announcing that I am leaving and recusing myself from this part of the meeting.
Applicant is requesting preliminary approval. The proposed plan on the site plan shows a carriage house in addition to the other request on the application. The carriage house will not be addressed at this meeting. That'll be addressed down the line. A material sample has been provided. When the staff report was written and put out, material samples had not been provided yet. Those have since been provided and were in the updated packet that was sent out yesterday. The proposed screen porch is not visible from the right of way. The plan meets all zoning requirements as submitted. Per historic district guidelines, the addition of new dormer windows should be avoided, but may be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Good evening, Brendan Hallisey, and my wife and my now 2 children moved here about 4 years ago, and we weren't allowed to explore per the guidelines of the state of Maine. They said if we left the state of Maine that we couldn't go back to work unless we quarantined for 2 weeks. So we moved after a FaceTime exploration, and after we got here, my wife said, we should have moved downtown. All right, so now 4 years later, we're hoping to finally move downtown, and we came across the Brits and were able to purchase this home in the summer, and we're still waiting to get downtown. But there were some additions that were done to connect the garage to the main house, and there's a flat section of roof there that is a water entrapment issue, so we want to correct that. And then the old garage doors are old and not sealed, and we'd like to turn that into some living space to connect to the lanai, which we moved to South Carolina to be able to enjoy the nice weather. So we want to rework that. As far as the dormer goes, there was a finishing for the attic, so there's a bedroom up there, but there's not appropriate egress. So this is the way for us to be able to make that be a safe and usable bedroom for our guests. Regarding the carriage house, we do want to be able to add that in for storage since we're taking away some of the additional garage, and we do plan to add an ADU so that my mother can spend winters, because she's not excited about spending the winter up in Maine anymore either.
Are you doing away with the garage and turning that into living?
Yes, sir.
So you don't, when you're finished with this, until you build the other structure, you're gonna be without a garage?
Yeah, so if you see on the picture, the leftmost door will be some storage space. We envision keeping kids' bikes and things like that we may need accessible, but there will be significantly less storage. But it's a bit of a misnomer. So the way that it's originally designed, the garage door that's closest to the main structure is not really a functional garage. They had turned it into a laundry room, and it's an odd design. The blower from the dryer dumps out into the garage, and there's a gap about this far in the garage door. So we definitely need to change that to keep the rodents and critters out.
Makes it a little awkward.
It's awkward. Yeah, we heard that was a good word for it.
Looks like a great bar inside.
You know, I built that when we were in New Hampshire, and it made it way all the way down here.
Oh, wow.
I think the dormer looks good. I'm kind of surprised that was a rule that, or a suggestion that we don't use, but it fits to me.
So are you changing the window pattern in all of the windows, or just?
I included the windows, and we picked them to match the grid patterns, except where there's currently the door that connects.
Right.
We'll turn that into a bay window and close that in. My wife wants to create a breakfast nook into that area. So since we're going to be adding the 2 doors to make it a better access into the laundry room, mudroom area, we'll close the kitchen part off and make that usable family space.
The 2 windows on the far right, have retained the old grid pattern.
Those are the original windows. We're not changing anything there. So, I believe that it's drawn as it currently is.
No, but the new windows you're adding
Okay, yes, sir.
are
No.
2/2s. And the ones on the right are 6/6. And I think the 2/2s look nice and that, not carrying those around to the two windows on the right makes it kind of awkward looking.
But those are the original windows.
Well, I
Yeah,
realize that, but if
mhm.
we're gonna remake the house,
So included in there is a bay window that was part of the additional. I'm not sure if you can see that there was, my wife picked out a bay window and we're open to changing whatever that window looks like. The primary concern really is that so there's, so that's the pattern for any replacement windows that we were planning. Like on the dormer, but then further down, there should be the bay window, I believe, as well. No, that's the door out back. Okay. We're incredibly flexible on whatever the new window is for the bay window. That part is just that we want to be able to turn it into a usable space.
When you're talking about the bay window, clarify what you're referring to. Right,
So there's
where you want to
two
have the
garages,
seating.
and then that connection from the garage into the main house, there's a door and two windows,
This
yeah,
one.
right over there. And so that's where we want to
Right.
put the bay window and
So,
eliminate that door.
so I think what David is saying is that the front elevation, if you want to change all the windows to 2/2, there's two left that you didn't change. We'd like for you to change those two as well. So you don't have to change the whole house, but just so that the whole front elevation is consistent.
The ones that are 6/6
Right,
changed to
correct.
2/2.
Okay, so can we go back to the photo? Because I know that they drew it, but I'm not sure what it actually looks like.
They are, I actually checked on it. Yeah.
So the windows in the main actually are 6/6. going to
Correct.
That part of the house as well. So I think they're all 6/6.
Right, but in your new front elevation, they're all 2/2 except for those two windows.
We can switch that to match the existing.
Right.
the 6/6.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Okay.
And then the other thing we'd like, or my request would be that there's simulated divided lights. Your current ones are not. But for this new front elevation to look great, we want them to be simulated divided light. Rachel will know exactly what I'm talking about. I promise you.
That's great.
Yeah, she will know. Yeah.
Our goal is just to be able to close that space in. Aside from that, we're incredibly flexible on how we
Okay.
achieve. We just want to make the livable inside space.
Just consistency. That's right. I think it looks great. So other than those comments, so you don't want me to make the motion?
There's also the screened porch on the backside of the house, the proposed
Thank you for,
porch.
I got a
and the garage
question.
door.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
go to that front elevation again. I think that when you go and return some of these windows, like the ones to the left of the section that's got the new dormer, those would not handle a 6/6 type
You're too short.
pattern. I mean, even if you did, you know, I think that the windows have to be made to be uniform in their layout. I don't think you can put the same grid pattern, not necessarily the number of panes, but that same grid pattern when you put it into square windows as opposed to vertically
Elongated.
elongated windows.
Rectangular.
I think you'd come out much more attractive by doing 2/2s all the way across.
I'm assuming that those
That's-
windows to the left of the dormer section are shorter because of the needed space in the room behind it. Is that correct?
In the dormer, that being a small window,
No,
To the, as we look at it,
those three.
yeah, those three.
yeah, so I think actually, now I understand that. That was in the original rendering, but we don't actually want to add additional windows to that. We're gonna leave that as the picture below where there's just the one window, the 6/6.
Oh,
That's gonna be a new pantry area, so we can't have a window that's blocked out by a cabinet.
so the proposed
Yeah.
image is elevation is actually not correct in that space. Okay,
To the, really, from the front elevation, the only part really that's gonna be changing is the connector and the garage.
okay, that makes
So I'm
sense.
Sorry, we'll update that for sure.
Well,
Well, you're putting in for a preliminary approval, so you're going to be back and with a revised drawing showing what you're actually going to.
We can certainly update that, but if, as I said, we'd like to be able to move in there as soon as we can. So if it's acceptable to say that we're leaving the original structure from an exterior view intact and then just changing the connector in the garage, then we would be over the moon happy about that.
let me ask another question about the railing on the porch. What is your intent there? In the elevations, it looks like it might be balusters.
It's an old wrought iron. It actually needs to be replaced, but our intention is to just repair it or replace it with like pine.
Okay, because I was going to say that this could end up looking real busy if you had what you're trying to do there and added balusters. So I think a simple iron railing like what you currently have there would be more pleasing to me.
We intend to, it's starting to get some rot in it, so I don't think it can be repaired, but I actually was able to talk with Remy about it when they were looking at the trees, that he seemed that it was reasonable for us to be able to replace it with like pine if we can't repair it.
What he's saying, I think, or is that we'd like it, not just hope that it's going to be replaced with ironwork, but we'd like it to be ironwork. Okay,
We have no intention to change it. It's either
Okay.
gonna be the new iron or repaired, the original.
okay. How do you phrase this?
I would like to see the front elevation as it's going to be done as opposed to guessing at it. And hope, I know your architect will make it right, but I'd like to see it right.
Can we make it a qualification that, so he doesn't have to come back in a month and put it off and put it off? That we want the front, the elevation on the front to be the same number of windows, except for the part that is being changed as a connection from the garage or whatever, so that that can be accepted by your office if we say we want it with the 6/6 on all three sections of windows, so he doesn't have to come back.
Yeah, you could make that a condition of approval if you.
That makes sense to you?
It does.
there is a dormer
Approval at
with a-
staff level.
Yeah. You phrase it better than I.
And they're
David, do you
Adding a
feel strongly
dormer.
about having to come back, or are you okay if he
adding a
gets
dormer
approval
in
at
the
staff?
main part too.
Yeah, I'm okay. I just, we've gotten
This
burned
gets messed
before
up.
by-
This is how mistakes get made, is what we're worried about. And then you spend a lot of money, it's wrong, and then you have to come back, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So we're not trying to delay you, we're just trying to keep you from making a mistake
Yeah.
and then
What I'm hearing is.
misunderstandings.
The original 6x6 and add any additionals to be 6x6. That was
Okay.
the-
No, I don't think so. So this would be my proposal, is that we approve as submitted with the following clarifications. All the windows on the front elevation will be 2/2. The section in the middle of the house so I'm looking at it, the left, the 3 windows will still remain only 1 window, but that will still be 2/2 to match all the other windows on the front
I
elevation.
thought we were saying 6/6. I thought we
Well,
were talking about
Well,
6/6.
6/6, it will look terrible where those 4 windows are ganged together. They would be tiny little things.
That actually, we were wanting to put any kind of window in there, but really I'd rather not to replace all the other windows, which are.
Okay.
6x6.
I think,
Well, then I'm going to say you need to come back. I think there's too much confusion.
I
So,
think what I heard him say was that everything is going to stay the same as the
Existing.
existing elevation, except for the connector,
Mhm.
which will have appropriate number of
no,
6/6 windows.
yeah, I'd hate to say it. I feel differently now. I think it's too many changes. I mean, we're changing every piece of it.
Yeah.
I think it needs to come back. So I'm sorry. I mean, the
But-
submittals need to be reasonably accurate, and we're changing 1, 2, 3 different elements on the front elevation. I just think it
But
needs to
when-
be right.
And when you look at it, to me visually, it doesn't look like those 4 2/2 windows would fit in the same space as the 2 windows and the door down below. I'm sure it is the same, but I'd really like to see
Yeah.
a
I mean, it might
final
end up being
elevation.
3 6/6s in the final.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's better to come back.
But the
Keep it
architect,
from confusing.
the
So,
architect will
Sure.
understand
Yeah.
what we're talking about. So I think it should be a smooth deal for her to put together elevation with the windows the way you want them, whether you want all 6/6s or whether you want all 2/2s. And so, yeah.
Can we take a look at the back porch?
Those are all 6/6s
Yeah.
at the original.
Mhm.
yeah,
Can
it
you
looks
tell
good
us
to
what
me.
you're proposing to do?
Yeah,
on
so
this?
the bottom picture is the original elevation. And then from the garage, we want to extend out to create a lanai. And then you see the large glass door. It's not with grids in it. I put in, I mean, it can be, but I put in the actual triple slide glass door that we'd like to place back there so that we can open it up to the lanai and to the new internal living space. And then replacing the old back door with a new door that I included in the pictures as well.
So it would be fair to say that everybody's okay with preliminary review. The general concept looks good. We just like for the elevations to actually match what you want, what you plan to do. And so if whatever the doors are, whatever the windows are, just make sure the architect reflects it that way and bring it back to us, and it should be very quick. Does that sound right, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that a motion or is that just a, because I don't think we really have a two vote process here, right?
For preliminary, if you want to defer it to next month pending updated elevations, that would be the motion.
Okay. All right. So the motion then would be to defer it until next month to get updated elevations. That accurately reflect the window and door choices.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry to hold you up. It's not our intent. We just want to make sure it's right. And we don't want there to be any misunderstanding.
All right, please answer for me, David,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and I say yes. So. All right. The next project is 309 South Magnolia Street. And I am going to recuse myself on this one as my son is the architect.
Applicant is requesting approval to demolish the existing garage and replace with a new structure that includes both a garage and living space. Existing garage is present on the original historic survey for the property. The applicant has provided a letter explaining reasoning for demolition that addresses condition 2 of section 2.5 demolition of the Historic District Guidelines. The proposed structure appears to match architectural qualities of the primary structure, but materials and paint color will still need to be confirmed prior to final review. The applicant has stated their intent to match siding and paint color to the primary structure. The current plan exceeds the maximum allowable lot coverage of 30%. The applicant's been made aware of that, and they will be working with staff to ensure that the plan meets zoning requirements prior to any permitting.
Hello.
Thank you for having us today. I'm Bucky Monroe. Recently moved to moved my wife back to Somerville, back in April. I earned my gray hair being an architect for the last 30 years. I have extensive experience in historic preservation and when living in Sumter, I served on the historic preservation committee for 12 years. We did both downtown and the Hampton Park District, which is a residential area. And I served as chairman in the last 4 years that I served on that committee. I say all this to brag on my clients here. Almost always when you're making a presentation and you're consulting with someone about historic preservation, there's always something they want to do that is really outside of regulations of historic preservation. In this case, on our initial meeting, everything they presented to me was right in line with what I would have recommended they do for the historic preservation. And of course, I have experience in renovating their house for the last 4 years and have shown a willingness to, of course, comply with everything, because that is what they're seeking, is something that is in harmony with the historic district and honoring the historic character of the home. What's interesting about this property is that the original structure was built in 1880. And there's some evidence to believe that actually the back of the house is the original front of the house. Because I believe it was the homeowners before they purchased the home actually built new dormers on the front of the house to match the dormers that were already on the back of it.
That was completed in the 30s.
In the 30s, okay, all right. So,
They turned the house then in like the late 30s, early 40s, and it made the front porch, my bedroom and my kitchen. And
In the gazebo
at the
area.
same time, we're assuming that the cottage house outside, because it's the same structure,
Same
like it's the
materials,
same
same-
materials used. An outdoor kitchen as was used in the additions, not in the 1880 structure.
Because the 1880s, it would have been, the front yard would have been where the kitchen house or stable house is the way it's listed, from what we
see in the town registry, stable house and stable area, so.
And I wanted to address the condition and the type of structure that this old stable house is. When you look at the photographs, what you see there is a combination of a slope roof and a flat roof on the original structure, and the original depth of that structure is only 12 feet. So there's some additional add-ons that were done over the years in the back half of the structure, and it almost became almost a square shape rather than the original rectangular shape. The structure itself is a pole structure. It is a barn structure. It is not built to really be, of course, it doesn't meet any of the current building code requirements. It's a pole structure where the floor is a poured slab, just fit within the footprint of the original structure. So any attempt to restore this would really mean complete destruction and reconstruction. There's really nothing structurally sound enough to even build from.
Actually originally put in for a remodel permit, and then when we started taking the belongings out of the structure, realized this is
Not even-
not,
Not even see.
I don't know how it's standing. That door right there that's open, if you close it right now, like the whole structure will fall down. But you can't even move that door, the white door that's open. You barely move it and the whole structure moves.
Part of the structure. So,
Is that part of the original structure or is that part of the addition?
That's all part of it, before our time.
No, but I mean, there is a building
The 12 by 12.
there that was originally 12 by 12, and this is one of the additions.
what you see in the right hand
The
side.
part that moves is this
Yeah.
stable house part that moves.
That, which is the white part, that's,
The pink part
yeah,
of
the
the
pink
house.
part, all that's because the structure is so weak, everything's.
And there's a tree that's like growing into that corner.
And when you say this is a pole building and the plank flooring is
The
on
poles
the
are in
ground,
dirt. The poles are in the dirt, the wall is physically into the dirt, and then the concrete has been poured afterwards.
And that concrete is not the same level as the
Any other structure,
cottage
yeah.
area. There's like multiple add-ons.
The original structure, what's that for in the original 12?
It is the same as our front porch, it's just the 2-inch wide porch material, but it's like completely rotted and it has, we have packaged termites in it. We seen that the other day.
It's on the ground.
That's on the ground.
So their interest in matching the structure was, even with the intent, it would have been allowed on the setback requirements. They would have placed the structure right where it is because what their goal was to, when it's complete, that you wouldn't even know that it had changed. It just fresh paint, with the same appearance.
Essentially extended back instead of
Have the same,
moving it.
have the same visual effect of the original kitchen, as well as the view from the road, which right now is the one single garage door. And then, but with having to meet the requirements, we're having to move it over 10 feet off the line. And we're moving it, I think, approximately 12 feet just to clear any kind of issues that we have with the property line. Then you only see like half the garage door now at that
It
point, which
actually
it
changes.
changes the view from the street, which is not what we wanted to do. We wanted to keep it as what you see as original as possible, but obviously we can't do that because of the requirements of the, building something new in its place.
What does that do with the concrete slab?
The concrete slab that's there we'll probably be getting rid of all of that, yeah, because it's all. And then also some other concrete that's in bad shape that we will be changing to pavers to accommodate for the green space. We'll be adding almost 900 square foot of grass and paver combination, which will take us down below, hopefully below the 30% that we need to be. He said that we were at 34 with the conceptual design, 32 with what we have now, but we're removing a 16 by 5, I think 29. It's 650 square feet of concrete that is in bad shape that we'll be changing to a small, like a 6-foot strip of pavers to match the pool. So it all is and then we'll have plenty more grass on both sides. We'll be taking if you go to that one that has the yellow one, the highlighter on it, that will be what we'd be removing that's currently there, which will add 10 feet, if not 12 feet of space off between our fence and between the fence and the new garage. That'll all be new green space, as well as where it says green space, we'll be eliminating that slab. And then we'll be following the same matching pavers around the pool to make it mimic the opposite side or mirror the opposite side.
But this is all intended to meet the impervious versus pervious space on the lot.
Because there is so much concrete back there.
And also there is a chimney fireplace in the actual building that I'm hoping to be able to move as intact as possible to have like an outdoor fire pit area beside the pool.
It will be on this diagonal of the pool.
And I'm sure y'all don't remember everyone that comes here, but I'm trying to keep this house as close to historically correct as possible. The people that owned it for 20 years before us did nothing to the house, and we've had to do a lot to bring it back and uncover moldings that were covered up and put back paint colors that would be there. And we're trying just to make it a usable, livable space, because originally when we bought this, our plan was to turn that into, to repair the structure that was there for my mother-in-law to have a cottage. And like I said, when we tried to start doing that 6 months ago to repair it, it's gonna cost so much more to
You
even
really can't.
attempt.
Yeah,
Like you would have to take a wall down, put a wall up, take a wall down, because the whole thing is falling down.
And in prior renovations of the main house, when they had materials that were part of the change to the house that were reusable, they're saving all those materials with the hope and intent that they can use them somewhere else.
Somewhere as in like features of the home.
So
We
But
built,
we took
yeah.
the original 2x4s out of the structure that we had to repair when the roof was rotten. And I have cut them into 2-inch chunks and turned them on their side, and it's my bathroom floor. Like, I'm using every piece of wood that has come out of the house,
Everything.
in my house. Like, I want to showcase the old, that's why I bought the old house. I don't want to modernize it. I want that cottage area in the back to look like it's been there just as long as the house has been there. And I want it to be a usable space, and there's rats living in it and termites are living in it, and it's really a hazard to have in the backyard with 2 children. So that's.
None of the roofing that's on it matches the house as well. It's the old 5B. And we had just gotten the new roof put on. We had to get that one approved because the roofing company bought the wrong
Right.
material on. But we'll be continuing on with all the same, everything that we can possibly match will be matched 100%. I mean, it's the siding, the windows, the same faces, because every one of if you look at our house, every side has different
Different
windows. Front view has,
But they're all the same on each side.
yeah, so
Like this side has the same, and this side has the
Yeah,
same,
so-
and the back has the same, but they're not the same.
they're not the same all the way around it, and we want to make sure that visually, like she said, it looks like it's been there. It's just cleaner and usable.
And the contractors that we're talking to is coming and looking at the house, and they walk through my house. I want the moldings matched and the trim matched and the windows matched, and I want it to look like it's been there since 1880.
can you bring up the elevations of the cottage structure again? Yeah,
And Remy, do we have any photos of the existing home?
Those were my color samples, is what I was trying to get in those areas.
The design of the new cottage on the side has a gable framed roof line, which matches the existing structure both in dimensions, slope and height. And that is, of course, the portion of the cottage that, well, it's a garage cottage that you'll see from the street. That you'll actually be seeing less of the cottage than it originally is because of the extra 5 feet we're having to move the structure over away from the property line. But the use of materials will match the house, the colors will match the house, food color, types of windows. The windows will not be as large as the existing house just because the limitation of scale on the cottage, but we do have a 9-foot ceiling in the cottage so that gives us the opportunity to have at least proportionally taller windows and the design that better fit with the harmony of the main house.
Could you please go back and then show the existing cottage and then the new design again?
That's the space, that's the road view that you see from the road, well, behind the 8 by 6 foot fence. That's the
Cottage with the pools.
That's what we're trying to mimic as best we can with the front view of that right there.
Wait a minute, what,
Top one would be road view and the bottom would be what is facing the pool side.
Yeah.
So we wanted it to look like that outdoor kitchen cottage is still there.
The only thing we're adding on the view from the road, which you wouldn't even see from the road, is that second garage door.
So the right hand of the pool side facade is the garage. So exactly half the building is the garage and the other half is the cottage structure. It's just a 1-bedroom structure with a kitchen, living space, a bathroom and walk-in closet. It's a nice cottage, but we're trying to limit the amount of square footage we're adding.
what was the structure? An end gable with a door on it that would flash by. Painted,
The existing structure,
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
it's just wood-frame structure.
No. Go back. That. What is that?
When it's
As
what?
best we know, it's a stable house or.
No, but is this the building you're working on? You want to work?
That's what-
Okay, so this would be the side facing the pool. Okay, so the garage door and the single window
Would be. would be
around the
that
corner.
picture.
And,
That's what faces the street.
and this little block, when you're looking at it from the street, is this little block intact and then beside it on the right side is a garage or was the stable or something?
It's listed, I think, on
On a previous plat or something that's listed as a stable house.
stable house. So so basically off the back of that house is a lean-to. It has a garage door on it.
Scroll up a little bit more, like you can see the garage view. You call it a garage, hard to fit in it.
Down, yeah, down. That's
So that would be the cottage where the little window is.
Okay.
And over here to the right is what we're calling the garage. That's just literally a lean-to on the back side of the cottage.
but it's been re-sided with the party board, majority of it to
And
right
door
over
on
top
top.
of the, over top of the rotten.
And this left-hand side that has the window in it is the one where it's just a pole building, is that correct?
Yeah, but yeah, that's, so they're both just pole structures, but the garage is the one, this left-hand or right-hand wall that you're looking at is the one that's buried in the dirt. And then the concrete was added into that stable area. It's just that cottage with the chimney, we've heard it called a couple things, like summer kitchen or, the stable houses, that's how it's listed with the historic district. So we're not really sure what, and she said it was added, I think Becca said it was added in the seventies it was put into the historic part in the seventies. So it wasn't originally with the historic, but I don't know how all that historic part took place or when all that took place.
But what is the structure of the left-hand part? I assume that chimney was probably on the exterior wall of that left-hand part.
It's inside the building completely, like we can't get to the backside of the chimney.
Yeah, that's way our cottage is.
Right.
But what is the physical structure of that building? Is that also just the verticals buried in dirt, or are they on piers or
It
on
appears to
footings?
be down in there. I think there's some bricks under the backside. I don't know about the front side because I think there's bricks on the backside that are just falling apart too. All the more.
Are there floor joists under this floor?
Yes.
The floor of the cottage that we're speaking of has active termites in it.
Because the roof is leaking.
The siding goes to the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that little bit of lattice. We've never pulled it apart to look at what's structurally under there.
There's no apparent foundation or foundation wall or the base of the structure.
It looks like lattice work underneath
Yeah,
that,
that's-
that much.
Yeah. Because they sided all of that
Hmm,
whenever
that's strange.
we're
But-
assuming the previous residents.
But the other side does have a step up.
Do what?
On the little gable end side,
Yes.
there is
But
a
it's still
step
on
up.
wood. It's on wood.
Talked about this when we first bought the house 4 years ago with Becca. She pulled up pictures from like early 2000s, like 2002, 2003, something like that, where someone was trying to get it demoed then.
But they stopped.
But they stopped because they sold the house. So they were trying to get it demoed 20 years ago
To add a
because it was
three-car
dry.
garage.
And nothing's been done to it since they tried to start that process. And you can, I don't know that I have inside pictures of. It's been trying to be repaired. The repair doesn't even. Evaluation.
I'd really like to know what the actual
Footing,
building technique of the left-hand part is. And it's also my understanding that if you could figure out a way to save and incorporate that left-hand portion, you could reuse the footprint of the stable part and keep everything where it is.
but literally. Being able to, I guess, get the approval to do the,
Extend back.
we also contemplated a second story, doing a two-story structure in that plate in that area, but it would just be able to stay on that footprint. But we also wanted to move it off property line because we don't really have a definition of the property line because there's so many trees, even with having our survey done here.
Like our surveyor wouldn't even charge me because he can't get a definitive property line because of the trees that down the property line. So he couldn't mark a definitive property line from front to back.
Which is what we were trying to get, so we knew what was ours and what.
So we make sure. that
But this. Going back to the cottage portion. We would love to be able to keep everything that we could, but but everything that's been added and done on the inside is just like it's a beadboard wall that somebody had added at some point. You really don't know how it's still standing because it's the back, you're walking into it, the back left hand, it probably drops 6 to 8 inches from the front. We've never had it like officially inspected to be able to find out what's really underneath because of, or how well it, or how it's actually structured.
Well, I'll just do a little tale. When I bought my house in 1974, it had a one-room cottage behind. And the sills were rotten. It had fallen off its piers and the chimney was leaning. And I stabilized it, rebuilt it, and basically took it down to a few of the structural members and rebuilt it around that and added to it. And it is spectacular and has been one of the nicest cottages in town, and everything about it looks like it was when it was originally built. And I think that I would like to see more evidence of what the original structure is and what condition it's in and how it was built and whether it truly needs to be demolished.
Remy, do we know the date? Like, is there any information about the age of this building?
From what I could tell, it was on the original survey. I forget what the date was of that original survey, but there were 2 surveys on file for the property and it was on both.
She was in.
Okay, yeah, then it may have been the survey from the 70s, but it was on.
That, like, listed as an outbuilding as a.
Okay.
Is that when the citywide historic preservation survey was performed?
Yeah, I think it's one of SHPA's surveys, so state. Yeah.
Maybe prior to getting the historic district declared for the.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was 1974, 75.
79, I thought.
That's what I thought she said was 79. It's probably in one of my emails, but I don't want to be.
I concur with you, David. I feel like we don't have enough information to be able to make a decision about it. We don't know.
Demo the rest of it and start to uncover and peel back the onion to see what's going on under it, like how does that work?
In that 12 by 12 structure at that point. Because
Like the garage part of it and the 2 structures that have been added to the back half of it are.
So,
not safe.
I mean, when we're evaluating something like this, documentation about, oh, there's multiple pieces would be so helpful for us to know, oh, there's multiple.
On here. What's separate pieces?
But when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about like some kind of plan view. These are the pieces, some research or documentation about what is the status or the conditions of those. Some, whatever information you have, because I thought we were talking about just 2 pieces. This one on the left side that has a shed roof going back and the one on the right that's this really quite narrow little gable roof piece. And now you're saying there's 4 pieces?
Well, there's an aluminum cover on the back right-hand side, and then there's another little,
And that's,
The
Covered
pool,
where
the
the
little
pool
pool house,
equipment is,
little
yes.
pool house where.
there's another little shed over it. It's,
and on the papers, it shows you the separate.
Well, technically the
pieces.
garage piece is separate too.
This piece right here, the garage piece is not, but this would be the cottage, and this is a lean-to, and this is a lean-to, and this is a lean-to. That's why it's drawn in essentially like a grid.
But they, whoever sided this side,
Remy,
decided the two together.
That little piece of a diagram, are you able to show us that and blow it up so it's visible?
Is it fair?
From the cottage area up top, that L shape, there would be a line that goes directly down the middle. Would be the cottage over there, the little garage space, and then 3 separate lean-to areas.
In order to find out how the building is built, you do have to take up some stuff, and I wouldn't call that demolition. You have to take up some floorboards and look at what's there. You have to get all the junk out of there, which I imagine is probably stored in there.
We have it all out.
Okay, well then, you ought to be able to take up the floorboards. My cottage, you could see the ground between the floorboards. And I mean, it would scare people that didn't want to delve into trying to reconstruct it. And we did it by the standards, which I think you all are wanting to do. But you've got to get in there and find out how the building was built, what of the original or salvageable or replaceable stuff can be done, and then go from there to see what you can do. If you could
Instead of
figure,
trying to mimic the look of
Yeah.
what it is.
yeah, but if you could end up saving that building and incorporating it into a new plan, that would be ideal.
Yeah, right here. So if we kept the cottage area and extended onto the back and then just kept,
Had a little
the
12 by 12
structure-
garage behind it.
yeah, essentially keep the same plan that we're proposing, but keep that front left corner, the original
But
structure that's there.
I think the first thing you need to do is you out what you
Specifics.
have and get down to the bare bones of it.
The drawing of what we have to go forward. If we have to keep the cottage, is the rest of the drawing that we
It-
have okay?
Now, you may want to entirely rethink things after you find out what you have. If you end up being able to incorporate that structure, it may change everything you want to do.
Right.
And so,
One of the difficulties with the existing structure is that it's non-conforming to the current zoning code, so they wouldn't be able to expand upon or improve the structure. If they improve the structure, they can't create a larger footprint. So if they were to incorporate the old structure with a new larger footprint, it would be in violation of the town's zoning ordinance.
things may have changed and
But just so you have the context, that
Yeah,
that's kind of where
but
they're
we-
coming from, is that they have the non-conforming
lot of-
structure that they can't expand
a
upon.
lot of these structures in Somerville are non-conforming in that they were built very close to property lines. We were allowed to extend our cottage along the same line that it existed. So it's like 3 feet off the property line, and we were allowed to maintain that same separation from the property line when we enlarged it.
I guess that's what I'm asking, and
You
the-
can't ask,
the overall,
we don't make those decisions, but I'm just saying that unless something has changed, there has been a lot of allowing in the historic district structures that are non-conforming to be modified and added onto as long as they maintain the same separation from the property line that existed. But that, I'm not in the legal side of town, and they may not do that anymore, but that's certainly something to investigate. But if you go around the historic district and look at the number of structures that are right on property lines, they are legion.
So the largest, roof area in the back portion of this existing structure is just an aluminum
Right.
roof structure. Sitting on metal pipes.
So I thought I heard them ask, I mean, if they were concerned about this, the small cottage, the original cottage, and there's several appendages. She asked if they could go ahead and demo those appendages, which we know aren't historic in nature. And I think it would help them clean up and kind of see what's there. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, but I just wanted to kind of throw that back to you guys to see if y'all would be okay with that.
If they want to take down
The parts that are naturally not historic. I
Right.
mean, just the appendages have been added over the years and keep the,
12 by 12 building.
right, that 12 by 12 building, try to focus on that and see what you've got there, get the other part cleaned up in a way and stabilize it.
Back there, and then at that point, if we're able to keep the 12 by 12 cottage as a, you know, historic as possible, if we're able to get it back to where, like you said, do exactly the way you did it, then we would go back to the
We would
picture, the original
essentially
picture.
just lose one part of our two-car garage.
Yeah, I would eliminate one of the two-car garage, keeping that cottage there and then expanding backwards to fulfill the rest of our design.
And that's why I was asking if we could look at the architectural drawings that are there already,
And
because that would be
imagine-
the same
Yeah,
plan.
imagine that that cottage was where that house was instead of, or on the picture.
And
That
so
way.
we can develop a design that we
Yeah.
incorporate.
I think it's going to take some design work.
Yeah,
I think that you'd have to have,
that's what we've been the whole time, but then once we saw how rough the cottage area was, we said we could use it as
Like
other
the
things.
foyer,
Yeah.
like to walk into.
Incorporating it into, you know, the cottage, the new structure that we were trying to figure out how we do it. And this was just, once we saw how rough it was, our first instinct was.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and that's, but we love, you know, that we want to keep the historic part of everything we possibly can, so, I mean.
I think if you do due diligence and looking at how that was built and what is salvageable, and buildable. If you find out that there's enough there to work with, you would be tickled to death to incorporate that into a plan, and it would be in keeping with what was there.
We'll do an exploratory survey. Maybe surgery too.
No. Survey and surgery.
There's 2 layers of siding there, so we gotta get.
Has the whole thing got hardy on it now?
It's like a mixture, a lot of the hardy is actually covering up the original, so
Right.
you can stick your finger and just mush the wood.
Mush the wood in there,
I mean,
right.
if the bones are good, then, you know. we're
Might not
good.
be anything there. Yeah, got you. Right. Remy, can we go ahead and give approval for demolition of everything but the 12 by 12 cottage?
Yeah, if you guys are comfortable doing that, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we approve the demolition of everything except the original 12 by 12 cottage that is native to the property, and then let them come do some work and come back with another presentation.
I'll second that.
You got to call for the questions. He's in the
Oh.
back.
Okay, I guess I shouldn't second. Does somebody else want to
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
Okay, call for the question. Tim,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes,
Becca,
Rachel.
Rachel, I mean Rachel.
He said,
Yes.
And
yes.
And I, yes, also. So we look forward to seeing what you find out.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any new business, any other new business?
Do we want to just confirm that we're only gonna meet for the 500 North Main in December?
What's that? Do we need Phil back in here?
Yeah.
Where is it?
She's saying instead of,
It's a waste of time. Meet before
Yeah,
that.
but I think we need to formally
I agree. And you
decide
want you
that.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Rachel has a question about process going forward.
I was asking if as new business, we want to formally decide that we will accept the special meeting for 500 North Main, December, was it December 10? Right, right. And that we will decline their request to have another meeting in November. Yeah, November 19th.
We will not meet on the 19th.
Have we already
Yeah,
adjourned?
that would be my preference.
Have we
Yes.
adjourned?
Just because I think
Because we were.
because of the situation and the property and the value that Rachel brings to the discussion, I think it's essential that our architect be present with us, even though it's a site discussion.
And I let the applicant know that that was the discussion that was being had, and they were very understanding about it. And said they had no problem just doing the December meeting if that was what you all preferred.
Okay.
So if that's cool with you guys, we can go ahead and lock in December 10th at 6 PM.
Terrific.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we were. I guess we got everything taken care of on